Patty, you ready? Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council meeting, November 29th, 2011. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Bernzler.
Here.
Riley. Fowler.
Here.
Anderson.
Present.
Hanson.
Here.
Jarvis. Sedlacek.
Present.
Lottie.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum for Common Council meetings. Next item is the pledge. Please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item of business is the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting held November 8th, 2011. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Lottie.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You got it? Oh, okay, thank you. Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Next item is the audience portion, where we ask people to come and address the council and sign in. Tonight, we have no one that has signed in. We still encourage you to come and participate in your common council and public meetings. Moving on, item 5, approved memorandum of understanding between the City of Plymouth and Sheboygan County Economic Development Corp. This is a item that is in our budget, and we have a agreement reduced to writing. I'll call on Director Jurgis to give us a summary, and then the chair will entertain a motion.
There's a city council communication form included in the packet with a cover letter from SCDC. Previously, earlier in 2011, we approved $5,000 from contingency for the year 2011. At that point, the council discussed requesting that SCDC submit something in writing to make a formal request and that it be incorporated into the budget process. The $5,000 is allocated in the 2012 budget. With that being said, we also discussed the fact that there should be an MOU in place. A draft of that MOU is in front of you tonight, which outlines the responsibilities of both parties and outlines the services we receive from SCDC on an annual basis. And this formalizes the relationship with them. And upon approval of this in 2012, the $5,000 contribution would be released in the first part of the year.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the MOU as written.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion, questions, comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Lottie.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Jarvis. No. Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Bernzler.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next item is 6 ordinances. An ordinance amending section 2-3-2 per N 23, city clerk / treasurer of the municipal code of the city of Plymouth. Ordinance number 21. This is the first presentation. I'll call on Director Jurgis to summarize all 4 of these ordinances. Do want to stipulate that they are in file in the clerk's office and on the city website. Director Jurgis?
Yeah, there's a series of ordinances in front of you. You may recall back in late 2010, I believe, and early 2011, when we were talking about the creation of the Finance and Personnel Committee and establishing the committee responsible for working with staff with leading the budget process, that there would be several future amendments that should be undertaken as well, assuming that process is used for the budget. Obviously, we went through that process and used that committee to establish the budget. In addition, in that, I submitted a memo in January which also talked about the section related to the Director of City Services. Ordinance number A relates to the city clerk, and it replaces the language with assist the Finance and Personnel Committee and the Director of City Services with the preparation of the annual city budget. Previously, the city clerk was the sole person responsible for coordinating the budget. The second amendment, or number B, 313, related to the city budget, again establishes that the Finance and Personnel Committee, with the assistance of the Director of City Services and City Clerk, is responsible for coordinating the budget process. And what it does is it references the Directors of City Services in the ordinance, Finance and Personnel, and sets that process formally in place, which is consistent with the Finance and Personnel Amendment, which was approved earlier this year. Number 3C is 314, related to the changes in the budget document. Previously, it was just the mayor, but I have found myself, as well as the city clerk, from time to time making recommendations related to uses of contingencies or transferring of funds. And so what this does is it allows the mayor, Director of City Services, or city clerk treasurer with a 2/3 vote of the council to approve transfers and changes in the budget document. The 2/3 requirement is required by state law, but it just includes the Director of City Services and the city clerk treasurer in that language, besides the mayor. The next ordinance is labeled D, is a more lengthy ordinance. What that does is rewrites the Director of City Services ordinance, is much more in-depth and detailed. It establishes the legal basis and authority for the Chief Administrative Officer of the organization, which is the Director of City Services. It addresses the role of the Director related to personnel budget. It does establish the Director as the ex officio member of all committees and boards unless state statutes dictate otherwise. And it formalizes the position, again, as the Chief Administrative Officer, which I believe is consistent with the intent of the creation of my position. My intent upon approving this is to also review my job description with the Finance and Personnel Committee, and then eventually I would be applying to the International City County Management Association to recognize the City of Plymouth as a general government entity, and that would also in the future allow me to qualify for ICMA credentialed manager status in the future as well. So that is the summary of all 4 ordinance changes.
Thank you. We will take them one at a time. For procedural purposes, that is the overall discussion that Director Yerges has given us. On the first one, the first ordinance, these are all first presentations. If on the first one, someone wants to
I would
make a motion to waive, thank you, John.
I'll second that motion.
Took the words out of my mouth. We have a first and a second to waive the second presentation and approve ordinance 20 as read. Discussion on that. No discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Ernstler.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis. Sedlacek.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes,
Motion carried, thank you. On item B, we heard the summary already. Again, it's first presentation. If there's any desire to waive the second, the chair will entertain.
so move, Alder Lottie.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second to waive the second presentation for item B, ordinance number 21. I should probably, I'm sorry, read that in ordinance, amending section 3-1-3, city budget of the municipal code of the city of Plymouth, ordinance number 21. Now we got it all in like we should. So we're all back to square one. Okay, first and second, any discussion on waiving the second presentation and passing it now? Clerk will call the roll.
Lottie,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Again, item C, summary was given, an ordinance amending section 3-1-4, changes in the budget of the municipal code of the city of Plymouth. Ordinance number 22, first presentation. Again, the chair will entertain a motion to waive the second presentation, if that's your wish.
So move, Alderladi.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second to waive the second presentation. Any discussion? Alderman Hanson.
I'd like the director to give me an example of the two-thirds monies, if,
To amend the budget, it requires a two-thirds vote of the council, meaning two-thirds of the council has to vote to approve amending the budget. So if less than two-thirds vote, the budget cannot be amended.
so an example of that, if somebody wanted to take money from XYZ account and put it to another account, is that what we're talking about, amendment?
Yeah, let's say we're taking, let's say $50,000 from the wage account in the police department and shifting that over to the public works department. That is a budget amendment and that requires a two-third vote. Is Jeff here? Okay. So it requires a two-thirds vote, but previously the language had the mayor in there, and, what frequently happens is, city staff really are here on a day-to-day basis and really know what financial decisions need to be made or brought forward for council decision, so, it just allows, Patty and myself to offer those, potential amendments. And those all are, like all of our other ones, usually they're in, resolution format, although the city, or they should be in resolution format, although the city has frequently approved the use of contingency, which is a budgeted contingency and can be viewed a little bit differently, but it has done that just on a simple vote rather than a formal resolution.
Any other questions? Alderman Fowler.
So two-thirds, are we looking at a majority? Should we just say a majority? Two-thirds is
It has to be-
5.33 or something.
It has to be two-thirds.
State statute requires two-thirds, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Correct.
Attorney Fever?
So how do we achieve two-thirds if 5 out of 8 of us vote?
Well, I think
You have
that,
to have
Is it
six.
two-thirds of the council or
Then it would
two-thirds
fail.
Well-
of the quorum?
If you
Let's
don't have
ask-
two-thirds, it would fail.
it would be two-thirds of the council, in this case 6-2, in order to carry.
So you have,
Yes.
That's
So-
three-quarters.
yeah, you have to have six.
Well,
That's
it's got,
three-quarters.
you can't fraction it, so you gotta round up, you can't round down. So you round up at 6-2, and that would be whether you have 8 council members present or not.
The reason,
Correct.
You
it-
still need a 6,
So if you had only
Vote.
6 present, you would need all 6 voting in favor.
Right.
because the council is made up of 8. So the statutes require the council, not those in attendance.
and-
So
and
it's
the
a
the other,
6-2.
the other thing is, the state statutes say two-thirds, so I think it would be prudent to match that, but in the future, technically, the council could say, we're decreasing the size of the council, and we're no longer gonna have, 8 alderpersons, and decrease it, so that, keep in mind that whatever the body is, it's two-thirds, so, the size of the board, in theory, could change.
Or you go
So
to
it's
9
always-
and then it's 6-3.
So that's why you wanna leave it at two-thirds.
Yeah. So that just defines what makes up the two-thirds, and it's the council of 8, not those in attendance. Okay, any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item D, an ordinance repealing and recreating section 2-3-20 as it relates to the Director of City Services of the City of Plymouth, Wisconsin. Ordinance number 23, again, first presentation. Again, I'll ask for, if anyone's interested in waiving second presentation.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second to waive the second presentation. Any discussion? Alder Fowler.
Well, does that mean now that we don't have a contract anymore? As such, right now we have a contract with Brian, right?
No, I
Correct, and I can address that. You would continue to have a contract
I would think
with
so.
Brian. This isn't replacing the contract. This is just clarifying what the responsibilities are in your ordinance. And the contract itself incorporates the ordinance.
So his contract runs through 2012, right?
no.
I don't have it in front of me, it's,
My contract isn't I mean, I think that, my contract, it's a related issue, so, I'm an at-will employee, just like every other department head.
with a minimum in the initial phase. Because we did have that in the original
No.
contract.
There is no minimum. I'm an at-will employee. I wouldn't accept the position if that was the case, because I was expected to move here, live in the community, that wasn't something that I was willing to accept, so that was removed.
Any other questions?
Number,
Alderman Sedlacek.
yes, sir. Fourth page, F, number 4. Says in consultation with the appropriate department head, be responsible for the appointment, promotion, when necessary for the good of the city, the suspension or termination of employees. Isn't that what the personnel committee is responsible for?
The policy which the council approved is consistent with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item 7, approve the Director of City Services to enter into an independent contract agreement with Deborah Noxon for purposes of providing humane officer services to the city of Plymouth. Director, would you summarize that for us?
Yeah, during the budget process, there was a request for the humane officer funding to increase. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe it was like $2,000 or something like that. And what was included in the budget was the same funding for 2011, or the same funding as 2011 for the year 2012, which was $2,700. During that discussion, and discussion with staff, we realized that technically we do not have a independent contractor agreement with the humane officer. And so I would say that since we don't have an independent contractor agreement, it's not as clear cut as whether that individual is a city employee or a contracted service. So what this does is it outlines that the position is officially a contracted employee. And it talks about the various insurance requirements. We're not providing workers' comp, for instance, for this position. The other thing is, during the budget process, we talked about providing training for this individual, providing equipment, providing mileage, as well as the per-call fee. The current per call is $10, but we also allocate money for training, and I believe in the past we may have provided some equipment, but I know the individual also had some of their own equipment. What this does is it increases the per call from $10 to $15, but then technically we're not providing any additional specialized training or any equipment. The individual will be responsible for furnishing that themselves. Again, there would be a maximum of 180 calls. That's $2,700 divided by 180 comes out to roughly $15 per call. We're not paying mileage. We're not doing any of those other things. Certainly, what I'm looking at is either approval of this or discussion of format and agreeing that this is a correct format for this kind of arrangement. Certainly, we still need to talk to the individual about this, but it is my intention to live within the means of our budget, which is the $2,700 that's been authorized and approved. And it's done on a per-call basis. If they're not used, they're not compensated at the per-call rate.
Thank you, Director. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract as written.
So move, Alder Lottie.
Second, Sidlansha.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 8, approve 2012-2014 room tax agreement between the City of Plymouth and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. I'll ask Director Jurgis to summarize that for us, and then we'll entertain a motion.
On your, before your receipt, there should be a replacement. What was included in the document, or in the packet, missed a page due to collating, so page, I believe, 2 was not included in the packet, so you should have a stapled copy which represents all 3 pages of the agreement. The current room tax agreement expires at the end of the year. This is a successor contract agreement with the chamber. It's essentially the same contract that we've approved in the past, although I will note under 4A and 4B, there was additional language that I requested to be added in there. The third sentence, the October report will also include a written annual tourism strategy, including a social media strategy, which shall be reported to the city beginning in 2013. That's just a point that, the city would like on file what exactly their annual tourism strategy is, and that would be reported on an annual basis. That's something that is kind of inferred with the projects that they do, but technically we don't receive an annual tourism strategy report. Item number B just reemphasizes that the quarterly room tax reports will include chamber website visits, visitor guides distributed, and visitor center information traffic, so we can understand how those resources are distributed and how the visitor center is used. So that has been incorporated into the agreement. Currently, the agreement does extend for a 3-year period, the years 12, 13, and 14. And that is consistent with the agreements we've approved in the past. I know the chamber staff could not be here tonight due to other events that were going on, but if the council had detailed questions for the chamber, they said that certainly this could be delayed to the next meeting if the council had any concerns.
Thank you, Director. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Sidlansha.
Second, Alder Hanson.
We have a first and a second to approve the 2012-14 room tax agreement between the City of Plymouth and the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Jarvis,
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 9, approve change orders number 1, number 2, and number 3 for the Plymouth Utility Operations Center building project. I'll ask Director Jurgis and/or John McKinnon to give us a brief summary, and then the chair will entertain a motion.
There is a memo packet from Mr. McKinnon, as well as a cover sheet that I put together. I guess the things that I want to note is that technically change order number 4 was already approved, but that is included in John's original memo. Overall, the total increase is $54,000, considering all of the building changes, which equal about 1% of the original contract amount. Our contingency that we've budgeted is 4.5% on the project. Keep in mind, when we did the direct purchases, what happens is that comes out, we're paying directly the supplier for those. And in case of the change orders, we're paying for the labor, but we're still purchasing the items directly from the manufacturer. So we're doing some of the purchasing that decreased our sales tax for a savings. So we're still doing that, but then there's still a labor charge for the change orders as well.
Thank you.
And so what we would be formally approving for the end of the year is the complete change orders 1, 2, and 3. Change order number 4, we already technically approved.
For a total of 54, 424, 14.
I believe that includes all 4 of the change orders. If you add 1, 2, and 3 together, technically it looks like a huge decrease because of the taking the direct purchases out and buying them over here, because we're buying them directly, so it looks like a huge decrease, but overall, all of the change orders total an increase of $54,000.
Okay,
So
thank you. The Chair will entertain a motion to approve change orders 1, 2, and 3.
So move, Alderladi.
Second, Alder Sedlacek.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Hanson,
Yes.
Jarvis. Sedlacek.
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 10, discussion and possible action on staffing at the Plymouth Adult Community Center. I'll ask Director Yurgis to summarize that for us, and then we'll entertain a motion.
Well, the council has 2 options, basically in front of you. The first option is the city option, where we would be looking at hiring a 3rd part-time person and begin the process to fill that position. Which obviously we need to create a update a job description and create an advertisement, and so we'll take some time to fill that. The other option before you is currently a draft agreement between PIC and the city of Plymouth, and certainly that is a direction the council could go down. There are a few points in the agreement that needs to be accepted if you were to go down that route by the council, and mainly that is the compensation to PIC for operating the PAC, as well as detailing whether they have full responsibility for operating the health and wellness program, or how you want to handle that. So basically, it comes down to the 2 alternatives we've previously talked about at several meetings.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion. Alderman Sedlacek.
I'd like to make a motion to take no action at this time.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a motion on the floor to take no action at the present time. Discussion on that motion? Clerk will call the roll on taking no action at this time.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lottie,
No.
Jarvis,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Fernsler,
Oh.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Take no action at this time is 4-3. At the present time, we will skip any continued action this evening. Pursuant to some of the discussion we had earlier, I think the director can answer a few questions if any of you have those, and we'll have that on the agenda for the 13th of December. Thank you. Item 14, approve use of City of Plymouth Fire Station for the Plymouth Fire Department Annual Christmas Party from 6 p.m. to midnight on December 19th, 2011, and the annual banquet from 6 p.m. to midnight on January 28th, 2011. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Alder Anderson.
Second, Alderladi.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Item 12, approve 2011-12 tavern operator licenses as listed, previously approved by Chief Tauschek. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So move, Alder Lottie.
We have,
Second.
we have a first and a second. I was a little quick there. We have a first and a second to approve the list of 2011-12 tavern operator licenses, previously approved by Chief Tauschek. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Utilities report, managers report November 2011. Item B, list of vouchers, October 2011, authorized payment of October vouchers. The Chair will entertain a motion to approve the list of vouchers for October 2011 and approve payment of same.
So move, Alder Lottie.
Second, Alder Jarvis.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Jarvis, Sedlacek.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item C, income and balance sheets, October 2011. Item D, collection statement, October 2011. Item E, uncollectible accounts, November 2011, in the amount of $6,264.61. The Chair will entertain a motion to approve the uncollectible accounts for November of 2011 of $6,264.61.
So move, Alder Lottie.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Lottie.
I would just like to thank our utility manager, Mr. McKinnon, for coming forth with the information on the Turner Hall building on uncollectible accounts from last meeting. I just want to thank him for that.
Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Lottie,
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 14, 14A, October report acknowledged for filing, Library Director. Item B, minutes acknowledged for filing, Library Board, October 3rd, Community Television, October 17th, Committee on Aging, November 1st, Housing Authority, November 9th, Mill Pond Committee, November 14th. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a first and a second.
Second.